Hey, this is Lex, and welcome to another episode of Lipstick and Liberation, a podcast where I, a 40-year-old Black feminist, talk about the social issues that are going on in our life, especially in these pressing political times, and my thoughts on those issues. And I try to bring you guys something to think about each week. This is directed towards women, for women, and by me, obviously a woman. As I say every week, still with misogyny, as with my lipstick, I always get the shade right. Thank you guys so much for coming back. I'm just so excited for this episode. I really want to talk about this week how people treat women rappers because, Cardi B dropped a new song. She's got her album coming out pretty soon. I will tell you guys up front, I love Cardi B. I follow her career from Love and Hip Hop to when she made Invasion of Privacy, which is one of my favorite albums. I played that album out. I'm one of the reasons all those songs went platinum. I really liked her songs post that. And I watched her struggle with her marriage with her soon-to-be ex-husband. I don't think the divorce is final yet, Offset. And I've been rooting for her to overcome and to succeed because I know how hard that is when somebody is dragging you down a marriage to be successful, and especially somebody you love and you're trying to make things work with. So I've really been rooting for her and her comeback because I want her to be happy and I want her to be successful. But, there's stand wars and things going on where people don't want that because they feel like it threatens their favorite. And I just noticed that with her new release, there was so much negativity mixed in with the positivity. And I don't understand why people are so hard on women who are rappers. Men are allowed to rap about so many things and so many genres, be good or be bad at it, whatever. They're allowed to explore that genre in a way that I found that people are so critical of women. They always say that they're rapping about their pussy or they don't have it. They're not good rappers. Their flow. You'll hear people, with Meg Thee Stallion, who technically is a really great rapper. Then they'll try to knock her down and say, oh, she always uses the same flow. It's always something with women rappers. And it's very catty and I don't like it because there's room for everybody. I truly feel like if you don't like a certain woman rapper, then just don't listen to her. Don't stream her. Like I have many women rappers that I do not listen to because I don't care for their music or their work. I'm not going to take time to listen to it and bash it. I just keep it moving because it's not for me. And understanding that everything is not for you is so important. I think, like I said, people get into these competitions. They want it to be competitions between these women, where really they should just all be occupying their own lane, making their money, talking to the audience that they want to talk to. And they should be able to, talk about whatever they want to talk about in their music. So I really want people to take a step back. If you don't like Cardi, you don't like how she raps, she sounded like this since she came out. She's not going to change. That's her accent. That is her cadence. That's how she raps. If you don't like it, then don't listen to it. There's no reason to listen to her music and try to tear her down. Like, it's just not constructive. And I think that we just need to do a better job about that. It's great to have a variety of women rapping right now. When I was growing up, we had different kinds of women rappers, but they were always, it almost seemed like they were like a sidekick to a crew, like, Lil' Kim with Junior Mafia. It didn't feel like they were the main attraction often. And now, arguably, women are running rap right now. Women are the most exciting people who are putting out the most exciting music in rap, barring your Kendrick or your Drake, so it's a wonderful time right now for women in rap. And I would like to see us support them in a more positive way. I'm not saying you got to like or buy anybody's music that you don't actually like. But if you don't actually like them, then just let their fans have it. There's no reason to try to tear down somebody that you don't care for. It's ridiculous. So I just wanted to say that opening up. I really loved her new song, Imaginary Players. Cardi, the vibe that she has, something with her and Meg and Glorilla, they just speak to me. They just speak to the kind of person I am, the kind of fun I like to have. So I'm always going to support their music. And I'm so grateful that she's back, got back in the studio and made this new album. I'm very, very excited to hear it. Pivoting from that, because we did talk about her relationship. And, relationships are things we do discuss on this show. I really try to discuss it from the perspective of trying to get women the best outcomes in relationship. But this week, we're going to talk about Shacarri Richardson and her domestic violence. I think she was so wrong for what happened in that airport. I did take time to assess judgment because I know sometimes reactive abuse happens where women are reacting to domestic violence from men. And so I wanted to be sure she was the aggressor, etc. After seeing the body cam footage, after seeing the airport footage, I'm 100% convinced that she is an abuser. And abusers can be both male or female. It's not exactly the same because men, when they are abusive towards women, they tend to go to lethal more often than women do. So men have a higher chance of leaving domestically violent relationships without losing their life. So I do want to make that distinction, because so many times when men are having dishonest conversations about domestic violence, they will bring up women doing domestic violence towards them as a kind of gotcha moment, like, oh, nobody cares about that. We absolutely care about that. I absolutely care about that. I don't want anybody to be abused. Let me be clear. If you have an abuser, I hate your abuser. And I wish that they would die so that you could have peace, since they won't leave you alone. 100% believe that. However, when it comes to domestic violence between men and women, there is a difference in the lethality of that, and it's wrong to leave that out. But what happened with Shacarri, that is abuse. Her boyfriend, I hope he broke up with her. He needs to get a protective order. He needs to go to therapy to figure out what triggered him to be in a relationship like this, to where the first time something like that happened, he didn't want to leave. Nobody is at fault when they get abused, but sometimes what happened is, sometimes the abuse victim, the reason that they don't recognize it as abuse is because it's something that they are used to, something maybe their parents did to them. So they're not clocking it as that. They're thinking it's a normal part of a relationship. It feels normal to them. It feels familiar. So you really do, if you've ever experienced this, you do want to go to therapy and dig into that. I can tell you, as somebody who is an intimate partner, abuse survivor, I thought I had the most idyllic childhood. And when I really started digging into what was going on, because I only had one relationship like that, it wasn't my tendency to wind up in relationships like that. And that's just proof that it can't happen to anybody. But why didn't I, when I saw the signs, think that this is not a salvageable relationship? And there are reasons for that. You will find that out. You will see that, hey, you got yelled at as a kid. Maybe people said things to you as a kid, and then they told you they loved you still. So that was confusing for you. And you thought that that could be the reality for this person who's your intimate partner. There are things like that. There is nuance. We are all human beings that have experienced different things in life. And some of us have experienced what is abuse, and we don't know that it's abuse. It was so normal to us, we don't feel like it's abuse. So it's very hard to see it in other people when we think that they love us. But the important thing is, if somebody's treating you like that, understand, this is always the hardest part, but please try to understand, they are not going to get better. They know what they are doing. And your only chance of escaping this is if they either pass away or you leave. And obviously, it's more likely that you leaving is going to be the best outcome for you, even though that's going to still be dangerous, especially if you're a woman. But let's be clear on this podcast. Across the board, this podcast is for women. It's about women. But domestic violence against men is not okay either. There are personalities that lead to people behaving like this. A person doing this is in a pattern of behavior. And you could tell by Shacarri's response, her apology, the way she didn't take accountability when the police officer was, asking her what happened. And she tried to put it on her boyfriend, even though she was the aggressor. Those are telltale signs of somebody having the personality of an abuser. If a person will not take accountability, even when they are caught on camera, this is not somebody that's safe to be around, because that means they will do anything and justify it. Even when you point out it's wrong, even with law enforcement, they're telling them you are wrong. This person is incapable of accepting that. So understand that that is a very dangerous personality type. I will no longer support her. I don't have anything for her. The only time I forgive abusers is if they go a long period of time without harming someone and they give back to domestic violence shelters or do restorative justice to the person that they have harmed, to that person's accepting it. Otherwise, they're a forever abuser in my book. And I think nobody ever completely leaves that alone, just like with drug addicts and alcoholics. That's always going to be present in that person's life. It's always going to be patterned behavior that they are going to have to learn how to reprogram themselves from falling back into. I don't think it ever truly goes away, but that's the only way that I will accept that a person has moved on past that, is if they've actually done the work and shown a pattern of not harming people for a very, very long time and continue on that pattern and are restorative, like I said, supporting shelters, supporting other victims, demonstrating they know what they did was wrong. So, like I said, I have no support for abusers here. I don't buy their stuff. I don't participate in anything that's going to help them raise money, because if you do, you're giving them money to continue to abuse. Like, I've talked to people extensively about my feelings about Chris Brown as a music artist and why I don't support him. And it's very hurtful to see that so many people don't care that he is still harming people. He just got out of jail for busting somebody in the head with a bottle, and people really don't care because they like his music. That's very disheartening. But I always talk to people about that because maybe I'll get through to somebody. Continue to give money and support to somebody who does stuff like this is continuing to empower them to abuse others. And we have to take accountability for that choice as well. As a society, I feel like abuse is so hard to address because so many people have experienced abuse that they don't want to like accept that it was abuse, or they have been abusive to others and they don't want to accept they're abusing themselves. So it's so easy to sweep things under the rug, to be dismissive, to say we should mind our business, which is terribly dangerous thing to say. Abuse needs exposure for the safety of victims. You shouldn't mind your business. Even if the victim goes back after you see that they're being abused and you tell them that they're being abused, it's still better that you know, so that if something happens to them, you know who is responsible. You know where to go looking. So it's never like, oh, we should have minded our business. Abuse is complicated. It's hard for people to leave. Like I said, a lot of people are used to it. So it's hard for them to know that it could escalate to lethal for them, especially with somebody whom they assume loves them. So understand that it's not going to be easy for a person to leave, but just because a person doesn't leave, that doesn't mean that you should just ignore what that person is going through, even though it is hard. We have a duty to try to help people to get out of abusive relationships to the best of our ability. You know, you don't want to put yourself in an unsafe situation either, if not necessary, but you should still be there for that person and have something to say and always speak out about it. And one of the disingenuous ways that some men try to have these conversations about abuse is by saying because women don't hold other women to the same standards about domestic violence, that then we shouldn't hold the men accountable who do it, which again, like I said, it is different because when the men do it, it does proceed to lethal more times. However, we should hold everybody accountable for domestic violence. It should be treated equally under the law. So I want to be very clear about my stance on that. And even as I'm saying that, like I said, though, you gotta, as men who are, you are a part of the oppressor class, if you are a man, if you want to be an ally to women, if you really want women to feel like you care about them, if you actually do care about them, you still need to be able to acknowledge the difference between domestic violence between men and women. Because a lot of times when men make that argument, they are upset because they feel like they get punished more for it. And it's not true to an extent, because a lot of times people don't even report their domestic abuser. And then a lot of times when they do report them, they get slaps on the wrist like probation. They don't lose custody of children. They continue to have successful careers, as we're seeing with Chris Brown. So it's not this idea that men are unfairly punished for, and it doesn't impact women when they do it. Part of that is patriarchy, because men create a society where they say that women can't harm men. Men, when we talk about men who are SA victims, other men will say, well, why didn't I have a teacher like that at school? Like, other men do not believe that women can hurt them unless they can use it to their advantage in a conversation against a woman. Other men would make fun of a man who said his girlfriend beat him up. Not women. Other men would. Other men would make fun of a man that said a woman essayed me when I was 15 and she was 21. As long as she looked good to them, they would be like, what are you complaining about? So it's not even something that's being perpetuated by women that men complain about. It's actually being perpetuated by the very system that they are in the power of. So they're not having an honest conversation. Most of the time when they come back on those things, it's to try to put down women for having a problem with men who are domestic abusers. Like, well, if you're not going to do anything about Shacarri, then why are you complaining about Chris Brown? Like, even though Chris Brown has almost unalived someone, he almost unalived Rihanna. He almost killed her. Shacarri pushed a guy a few times in the airport. Still not acceptable. She still needs to be punished. But like I said, the risk of lethal is very different in those two situations. So I'm still not going to support either one, because I believe abuse is a personality disorder. Abusive people they have that pattern. They're going to continue on that pattern. But I don't think it's fair to say that those are the exact same situation, because they are not. It's like the number one way that women who are pregnant pass away is because the father of their child unalives them. It's not the flip side that the number one way men die is because their pregnant girlfriend attacks them. We know that. And if you don't want to have an honest conversation, you just want to point the finger at women anyway, then you're a misogynist. And what's the point of even bringing those things up? If you don't care about men who put their hands on women, you still want them to prosper and be able to be successful, then just say that. You don't have to juxtapose it with what women are doing. You already don't think women have the moral character to be leaders or are fair people. So why are you trying to point out, well, because you guys do this, then we should be able to do that? you should despise men who beat women just off of principle alone. Like, to me as a man, you should despise men that put their hands on women just off of principle. Whether women punish women who put their hands on men, that is a whole separate issue. But that still should not be something you use to excuse men being violent towards women. Absolutely not. You could take a stand on both things and try to make them better. This is often, like I said, a game that people who are in oppressive positions play, like white people trying to compare when they get killed by police officers to how it happens when black people get killed by police officers. Knowing that that same basic thing that police officers have too much power to escalate to lethal is the issue, but pretending that they escalate to lethal the same amount of times and in the same circumstances with white people as they do with black people. That's exactly how that conversation where you try to equate domestic violence between men and women goes, because women are not escalating to lethal with men at the same rate as men are escalating to lethal with women. So we have to have honest conversations, guys. So many of you guys have so little nuance in life. You think everything is this or that. You don't know how to look at oppression as a hierarchy. You haven't read enough books about the oppressive systems that we currently live in. It's sad. And I do think the expense of college education has impacted this, because people don't go to college. They don't see debates. Like when I was in college, I was constantly going to political events. I was constantly exposed to political literature. I would probably have not gotten into reading about the Black Panthers, feminism, Elaine Brown's book. There's so many books that I read because I went to college and I got into politics in the way that I did, that people who did not go to college or did not care to go to college are never going to read. And we know college has become prohibitively expensive, and people as a society are pushing back on us going, because it makes people low information voters, and low information voters typically wind up being Republicans. So it's very frustrating, because we could be having better outcomes. We could be treating each other better if we were better educated. But so many people act like they're allergic to education or fight back on anything that challenges them, that we are struggling. And that's part of why we are in this Trump presidency right now. So I will close out with saying on domestic violence that it is wrong. It should be treated equally and punished. But we should still be understanding that what happens with women, it is an emergency, more so than what happens with men, because men are not being unalived to close as the same rate as women are by not their heterosexual partner. So I just wanted to close out saying that the last thing I wanted to talk about, you guys, is cultivating friendship so that you do not feel like you have to date, so that that's the only outlet that you're getting attention from. I think that's so important for women, especially women who have been, socialized to center marriage and children as the thing that is going to make their life meaningful. Like, I want women to realize that their life can be meaningful if they just have friends. Like, your life can be meaningful without a romantic relationship. If you find one, great. If you find a man and you guys have children and you're happy, make sure he's paying all the bills. But if you find that, that's wonderful, and I'm happy for you. But if you can't find that, that doesn't have to be the end of your life. There's so many people, like I had spent time with my mom this weekend, and she's thriving so much in widowhood, and I'm just so proud of her at recovering from the way her life changed when my father passed away. My mom has this beautiful social life. She has friends. She travels. She does so many things, and I'm so proud of her. Watching her build community on her terms is just, it's so beautiful. And I want women to know that overall, you can build a community that does not involve men. If you're not successful with men, if you had a lot of trauma, so you're not good at dating men, if you've gone to therapy and it's just not, you decide to go 4B, whatever you decided for yourself, understand you can still have a fulfilling life. You could still be happy. And I want that for you guys. I wish that women would live together more, get roommates, bring back the roommate model. So you don't feel like you have to be in love to share a household with somebody. You don't feel like, you can't live with anybody unless you guys are enjoying each other's bodies. We have so many weird social rules tied to those kinds of things, like living together, purchasing property together and stuff. If we rethought about that, we would probably have so many safer outcomes. The reality is a lot of us were not parented and raised in a way where we are safe people to be in relationships. A lot of relationships are toxic because the people have come up in a toxic childhood and have not gone to therapy to deal with that. And so it's okay for people not to partner. For some people, it's probably better for them not to partner. We need to give people alternatives that don't just include romantic love or you have to live alone. Because I live alone. I love living alone. I'm fine with it. But there's some people that don't want to live alone legitimately. And we need to make other living arrangements acceptable and accessible. I think so much of what's wrong with our society is we are forcing people into roles that they don't really want to be in, but they feel duty bound to fulfill. If we have more variety, if we let people have more choices about their life, the things that scare conservatives the most, people deciding not to go the traditional way, people deciding not to be traditional. If we allowed that, I think like it may not be easy right away to get what you want, to find where you want to be, but make that like your part of life that's like dating, because you take time to look for somebody to date. You take time to meet people and go out. Try to make friendship like that. Try to find friends too. I do think that we put so much emphasis on the everybody has to get married model. What if everybody just has to find their way in life, whether they want to get married, whether they want to live alone, whether they want to, live with a bunch of friends, have roommates, people who plan not to marry all getting together and purchasing something. We have so many options in the world that are just going overlooked because we as a society don't value those kind of arrangements. So I just want to encourage women to think outside of the box. We're living longer. We are having less children. We are tied down by less social norms. We don't know how long this is going to go on. The conservative movement is trying to take a lot of things away from us. It's trying to force us back into these roles where we have to just give birth and be wives. But right now, you have that freedom. So exercise and enjoy it. Like I said, I've enjoyed watching my mom exercise her freedom as a woman in widowhood. And I just want to encourage other women, where we are right now, exercise your freedom. If you're not married, you're not tied down, you don't have children, go enjoy your life. Don't focus on just planning all the time and planning about this future that you don't know is going to happen. Please find time to be a free woman and enjoy yourself before they take this stuff away from us, because that's totally possible. We live in that realm of possibility. So don't wait forever. Enjoy yourself today. I'll leave you guys with those thoughts. I want to thank you guys so much for coming back as always. Remember, you can subscribe so you'll get notifications when I do update. You can also support by becoming a paid subscriber for as little as $3 a month, or you can buy me a coffee. You can also check out my Facebook page, Lipstick and Liberation. Whatever you do or don't do, I'm just glad you guys loan me your ears. So I appreciate you and have a wonderful, wonderful evening.